I'm bummed out because my beloved Boston Celtics are down 3-2 to a team that has James Harden on it. The Philadelphia 76ers took down the Celtics very easily last night. They take a 3-2 series lead with Game 6 going back to Philadelphia, and we know the numbers that generally the team that has a 3-2 lead in a series, they're going to win it about 80% of the time. Philly looked like the significantly better team in last night's game. Yesterday, we touched on this. What I want to see out of James Harden to potentially look the other way, say he were to return to the Houston Rockets, because expecting him to score 45 points or 42 points is ridiculous, but also expecting him on a nightly basis during the regular season to be the guy that you saw in Game 2 and Game 3, also ridiculous. He's probably a little bit, even at this point in his career, a little bit closer on that massive spectrum to what he was in the first and the fourth game than he was in the Game 2 and 3. He's not a terrible player, as much as I hate his style and all of those things. If Harden is okay with being the guy that we saw last night for Philly, he's efficient from the field, 4 of 8, 1 of 2 from outside. He got to the line, which is important, get people in foul trouble, and he is still good at driving. Maybe not as quick as he used to be. 8 of 10 from the free throw line. He was drawing some free throws from outside, too, with that obnoxious thing that he does where he like kicks his leg out whenever he shoots a three. Like, he'll create contact on a three-point shot. Refs still haven't gotten wise to it. But he had 17 points, largely due to going 8 of 10 from the free throw line. He occasionally did little things. He had 8 rebounds, almost had a triple-double last night, 2 steals. But most importantly of all, if he can set up not just Joel Embiid, who had an awesome game. Embiid looked like the MVP, both ends of the court last night. But Maxey, Harris, the way that he did, where he had multiple, I think he had 4 starters for the Sixers in double figures last night. If he can set them up, then he could probably set up the young Rockets on this team. So I might even go further than looking the other way when it comes to a James Harden return. Say he's able to do that again in a closeout game. But this is where we all have the questions because we have been there and done that with Harden. But if he has in a 7 or a 6 game series 4 good games, I think even the biggest James Harden haters, myself included, because I'm the champion of that cult. Although we're not a cult. We don't do any religious like blood sacrifices or anything like that. But as the person who was off on Team Harden before it was even cool to do it, I wouldn't be able to say no and be rational in doing it. It would be personal. So we'll see what he's able to do tomorrow night. This series is a win-win for the Rockets, though, no matter what. Because, okay, maybe the Sixers win this series and they decide we're going to run the whole thing back. We're going to bring James Harden back. Harden thinks to himself, I can't leave after I make it all the way to the NBA Finals. I've never won a title before. Maybe he thinks to himself, okay, I can stick around here. We'll see. Again, it's 2 games left, potentially. I don't think Boston's dead, but I don't feel good about their chances either. But if Boston loses, this could be a win for the Rockets, and you've heard me touch on this before. Ime Udoka, the head coach of the Houston Rockets, and Jaylen Brown work together in Boston. I think that is a potential draw for Jaylen to maybe try and force his way to his team like Houston for some sort of assets. I don't want the Celtics to trade Jaylen Brown, but I don't know that Jaylen Brown wants to be there. Let's play a couple of clips of audio from Jaylen Brown. After Game 4, where Jaylen Brown, one of the Celtics' 2 best players, was barely involved down the stretch, he said this.
I guess I got to demand the ball a little bit more. I thought good things happened when I had it in my hands, but I thought our offense was okay. I thought we chipped away, we made big time shots, we got great looks all game long, and we just came up short in the end.
Does that sound like a guy who's happy with his team? Not to me, and I don't blame him, because there are long stretches where guys like Marcus Smart think they're way better than they are offensively for Boston, and other stretches too, I would say specifically at the beginning of games, where the Celtics are clearly trying to feed Jason Tatum to get him going. In the last 2 games, he's been bleeping terrible to open things up. Here's Jaylen Brown after last night's game, the Celtics blowout loss, just talking about what this team might need to do to turn things around on the offensive end?
Definitely get more organized, maintain our spacing. I feel like I feel like we got kind of the same looks over and over again. We got a lot of open looks, and we didn't make shots tonight. But I think that we can be better, and I think that we will be better.
He's frustrated with something there. Is it the coaching by Joe Mazzulla? Is it his teammates? Obviously, they've lost 2 games in a row, so that might be part of the reason that he sounds like that. But that does not sound like somebody who feels he's a reason for these issues, for these struggles. That sounds like a guy who is politely distancing himself. And if that's the case, say Philadelphia wins this series and James Harden decides, I want to stay with Philly, well, the Rockets could potentially try to get Jaylen Brown here, who's, I think, one of the 15 best players in the league. And say the Celtics rally and win, and everyone in Philadelphia is calling for Doc Rivers' head and to get rid of James Harden. Well, guess what? He might be available for the Houston Rockets. So I think that the way that this series goes, win-win. Watch it however you want. I know how I want it to go. As a fan, I would like to see the Celtics obviously advance because I like them. And I want Jaylen Brown to stay in Boston. But as someone who works here, I think I'm supposed to root for and I think as someone who's working here, I should be rooting for James Harden and the Sixers to win, because I should be rooting for Harden to stay in Philadelphia, even though it might be able to work with these younger players. I'm being more and more convinced as the series goes along, because I want Jaylen Brown to be here. I think Jaylen Brown would be an outstanding foundational piece for this team, for whoever they would theoretically bring in. And I think that's a guy that wants to go and do his own thing, maybe do his own solo act, because I think with Jason Tatum on the same team as him, he gets forgotten way too often. He's too good of a player to be forgotten completely on the court.
So the Rockets, you're saying we're just watching this and we're ready to pick up the scraps.
Yes.
Just whatever scraps fall to us.
This is an opportunity. Okay. I know Rafael Stone, big fan of me. Rafael Stone should be listening to me. Do I know more about general managing a basketball team than Stone? You could argue that maybe I do, because the qualifications for Stone getting that job, not really existent. And I have played NBA 2K. 713-780-3776 to call in, to text. And we have Jonathan in League City. Jonathan, what's going on?
Yes, I think either Brown or Harden. Both of those are maybe options at the end of the year, but either way it go, I think it would be an upgrade either way. I do think Brown would be able to be a more aggressive in this. He wouldn't have that Jason Tatum shadow. I mean, because his skill set is so great, but it get overshadowed sometimes, and sometimes he defers. But, I mean, there have been games to where he's been super dominant. That's inconsistent, but I still think putting him in here with Udoka and what have you, and getting the best out of him and letting him run the show, or, again, the Wally veteran James Harden. Or maybe, and get this, it may be that they possibly, I'm not saying they can, get both at the end of the year. And then one other thing, finally, the fact that they was referred to, you were referring to the Harden haters as a coach, clearly shows that you are delusional.
What? I'm delusional?
Yeah, you're delusional.
All right. I mean, I'm the one who leads it. So I'm trying to figure out what the point of that call was, and I'm also suspicious. I feel like I recognize that voice. Am I wrong? Maybe we have to do some audio piecemealing together. Huh. I'm stumped on this one. Eve, with a thought on the Houston Rockets and James Harden, who has played pretty well the majority of this series against Boston. Dave, what's up?
Hey, man, how we doing, Paul? Hey, man, I don't know, man. Why on earth would we remotely consider bringing James Harden back to the Rockets? The guy's attitude is trash. His team morale, what he adds, I just don't know why. Yeah, he's a great player. He's not consistent in the playoffs. We do know that from the past, the history that he has here with the playoffs. I just don't know why anybody but him. And you look at the Astros. Look at these guys. Look, their clubhouse is one of the most raised clubhouses in the league as far as their morale in the club. Man, James just does not bring that positivity to Houston. And I know he has a lot of roots here, but I just was going to get your thoughts on that, man. I don't know. Let's rebuild with this young crew. Would he if he wins championship? If he wins the championship, would he stay there, or would he come back to Houston, or would that change?
That's a good question, Dave. That part of it, and appreciate the phone call. That part of it, we'll see. I think if they win in Philly, or they get to the NBA Finals in Philly, which is definitely possible, because looks like they're going to play Miami in the next round. And at some point, do we really think Miami's going to do this as the 8th seed? I love Himmy Butler, but I don't know. But that's my gut reaction too. The idea of James Harden coming back here depresses me because I disliked watching that basketball. But as far as Harden with this team, look, I think that maybe I hope that Harden's become more mature over the last couple of years. And I could understand how he would be, just given how disastrous things went in Brooklyn, seeing Kyrie Irving. I think he has some regrets about the way that he forced his way out of town in Houston. This is not me saying that he can make up for him by returning. I will still be disgusted by the way that he did it. So he goes to Philadelphia, but it does seem like he is very well liked in that locker room. And this is a very small snippet, but if you saw when Embiid won the MVP, did you notice who was the first person over to Embiid to give him a massive bear hug? It was Harden. Again, small thing to make a big deal out of, but maybe it's different. I think that the large reason that this rumor has continued is just because the Fertittas love James Harden. And I think Harden would love to return. It's the family things. It's the familiarity. And I think he also knows that he's going to be able to do things his way here. But there would need to be an expectation of, you're taking these guys under your wing, and it's not all about having fun. And you know what? As you get older, maybe you do it a little bit less. I guess I'm sort of trying to explain it for the Rockets here. I don't want it to happen. I want everyone to be clear on that. I do not want Harden back here. Sean's like moving side to side. No, but I also can understand, as this series continues, I can understand how it theoretically could work. I can understand how you can talk yourself into it. Though what he did last night, 17 points, he almost had a triple-double. He had eight boards. He had 2 steals, so he was like kind of active on the defensive end. He had 10 assists. Some of those assists were beautiful. He got to the free throw line 10 times. That's what you want him to do if he were on a team with a bunch of young players, with a theoretical lottery pick, which you're hoping is going to be top 3, and specifically you hope it's going to be number 1, with Jalen Green if he's still around, with Jabari Smith Jr. if he's still around. Because I think the other thing that could go for the Rockets is if the Celtics lose this series, that maybe Jaylen Brown tries to force his way out of town, but you're going to have to give up some assets to get you're going to have to give up some assets to go and get Jaylen Brown, where there is a way for the Sixers and Harden to divorce here, and you wouldn't have to do that.
So, Paul,
yeah,
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Would you rather the Celtics advance and James Harden comes to the Rockets, and you are subjected to having to watch 4 years of the end of James Harden's career with a front row seat, well, not a front row seat, but like a 10th row seat, let's call it, at Toyota Center? Or do you want the Celtics to lose, Philadelphia to advance, probably go to the finals, maybe even win the finals, legitimizing James Harden, and the Celtics lose Brown to the Rockets?
This is painful. All of that you laid that out in a very painful manner, Sean. So credit to you. Look, there's only 2 teams I still love. I need Boston to make something of this run. I do. Feels like this is it. It really feels like this is potentially the end of an era. Because if they don't advance they're going to be looking at someone to point fingers at, and there's, I think, a very real chance that Jaylen Brown wants to go off and do his own thing because he doesn't see Jason Tatum being capable of carrying. So, no, I'm rooting for the Celtics to win this series.
Okay.
I have some honor, okay? Just a little bit.
Well.
But it's a win-win scenario for the Rockets, whatever happens. I think that Jaylen Brown would become a possibility for Houston. I think he would love it here. And I think from a Sixers perspective, okay, if Harden keeps doing this, you can't turn your nose up so much at it, because it would be one thing if the Rockets were actually kind of scrappy the last couple of years. They were so awful last season. They sucked. They were hard to watch. They had no one who could distribute the ball. So, yeah, like, there is a part of me that is so disgusted by Harden that I kind of want to be stubborn and proud and say no, but man, they were so bad last year, and you're not going to find a good ball handler just rolling around in the streets. Like, this is the best thing that you could potentially get. Harden's a great distributor, and yes, the ISO stuff is annoying, but
what you lose, I will say, yeah, the actual skill that James Harden has is what the Rockets need the most, is someone to organize and distribute the ball.
Right.
And run the offense that Ime Udoka is going to implement. But what he doesn't have is the fact that Jaylen Brown's like 26 years old, is much more on the timeline with the Jalen Greens, or whoever is left, because you make a good point. You will have to trade for Jaylen Brown if you want him.
You're probably
this
giving up
offseason.
Jalen Green to do it. And if you like Jalen Green, like, hey, bye. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Green will be a part of that trade.
And so, you're building around maybe this year's draft pick, maybe Sengun, Jabari, whichever, the young core that's left over after the trade. He would fit that timeline better, also has more continuity with Ime Udoka, so you're going to feel better about that. So it really is like you kind of wish that the 26-year-old was James Harden and the 34-year-old was the one that didn't really fit.
A little bit, but look, I do want to see Brown here. I really do. And I guess there's a chance that they would both be here if the Rockets really want to be aggressive. I hope that doesn't happen.
That is the, like, pie in the sky draft day scenario.
Yeah.
Of, like, maintain, like, yeah.
14% chance to Wembanyama. If they get Wembanyama, okay, bleep it. If they get Wembanyama, like, no, seriously, we all should throw a party in the streets. And I'll even be like, you know what, Raphael Stone, you son of a bitch. Like, praying and
it's gonna be
Fertitta, like, you son of a bitch.
It's gonna be the end of Top Gun where you're like, you are dangerous.
Yeah, 100%.
But you can be my wingman anytime.
I'd give Raphael Stone a high five for that. I would.
Oh wow.
I would.
Wow.
Even with all the criticism, he probably would
big.
say, like, you didn't even get into a fake Ivy League school like me, and I'd be like, okay, fine. But
I'm gonna save this clip for if they win. So I'm gonna hold you to a high five to Raphael Stone.
Look, every now and then you got to admit, like, things are going well. Harden's doing well in this series. Like, last night that's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah,
with the young
that's
Rockets.
like the realistic James Harden that you think you'd be getting. It's like around 18 to 22 points. Around double-digit assists.
Mm-hmm.
But like the 40-point games are obviously awesome, like great. But that is an unfair expectation for James Harden.
100%.
And then games 2 and 3 also like, this is like okay, this is something that we can actually use.
Yeah, and look, you'll have to deal with a couple of those games 2s and 3s. You will. We all know. But the thing is, right now you're not watchable.
Yeah, honestly, James Harden disappearing in the playoffs for the Rockets next year would be a huge success for the Houston Rockets because it would mean that they're in the playoffs.
Thank you. I like to think that I have pretty good ears when it comes to recognizing voices. And I was a little bit suspicious earlier today when somebody called in who sounded a lot like a caller we had yesterday. So we did a little research behind the scenes. And Sean, is it possible that we had the same caller call in back-to-back days under different aliases?
I'll let you and the listeners come to that conclusion as someone who's listened to both of them back-to-back. Here is today's caller, who's alleged to be the caller Gary from yesterday under, I forgot what his nom de plume was, but under a fake name,
Jonathan. I think it was Jonathan in League City.
There we go.
Yes.
So
This
here
is
is
Jonathan in League City, or actually Jonathan in League City. Sorry if you are Jonathan in League City.
Yes, I think either Brown or Harden. Both of those are maybe options at the end of the year, but either way it go, I think it would be an upgrade either way. I do.
Okay.
All right. So I just wanted to give you a little taste of that.
Okay. That's Jonathan in League City, allegedly. And this.
Now here's Gary from yesterday, and I just come to your own conclusions.
Okay. Gary, what's going on?
I'm thinking it would be a big acquisition bringing him back. And then the fact that there's not a lot of representation on the radio, not seeing what we would see, Harden would be great for those young guys.
I was going to have it be a blind test of like which one's which, but I couldn't find one from Gary
could
where
go
he
5
doesn't
seconds
say,
without saying representation. So
or that you weren't like talking over each other. So I
That too,
I had
there
to
was
present
that.
it like a case.
I need help. There's a certain.
Want to hear another Gary
I want to.
from yesterday?
Wait, more Gary from yesterday? No, we don't need to hear
Again,
more Gary
when,
from
when
yesterday.
a show is not equally represented.
Oh, God. We're gonna save that as a drop, aren't we? Jesus. All right. Well, I'm gonna leave that up to you. I honestly can't conclusively prove it. Maybe I'll go back to the lab and listen to myself and try to figure it out. But I can't say that wasn't Gary. This does not prove the existence of Jonathan in League City. Maybe we need to have them both call in at the same time one day.
Yes, I think either Brown or Harden.
Yeah,
Which one was that?
that was Jonathan in League City, but I think it was Gary.
Okay.
Now that I hear that,
They sound more. I will say they sound more like than what I thought. Like when Jonathan from League City called in, but I'm still not 100% convinced. But they sound similar.